There we go. So we're now recording. So yeah, big, huge welcome. We are here to. So the reason for this webinar is that quite a number of schools and colleges asked for support for their governors and senior leadership teams, head teachers within the schools and colleges. And so therefore, this is what this is about, to really help you within your role when it comes to careers education. We know there's quite a lot of research now actually out there that shows that positive, impactful, good careers education can have just such a brilliant impact on young people, including better progression destinations, attendance, attainment, engagement, particularly for those young people that perhaps are more disengaged at the moment. So really positive to see you all here, and hopefully you'll come away with the knowledge and information that you need in order to really help support the careers leaders and other stakeholders within your schools. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Janet Coldridge, who is an incredibly experienced within education, within careers, has run workshops for us before. And I won't steal any more of your thunder, Janet, so I'm just going to hand straight over to you. I will share up on my screen your slides, hopefully, anyway.
My head was getting bigger. Did you notice it?
You won't be able to fit the screen soon, so...
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry, as per normal, we're having problems with Microsoft Teams, and it won't allow me to share the PowerPoint from my end. So I am now going to turn into Chris Whitty, and Hyla's going to sit there with her finger hovering over the mouse. So we've got about 90 minutes. So I'm going to start off with a little bit about me, for those of you who don't know me. Won't go on for too long, I promise. My background is I'm a teacher. I am not a careers advisor. I have huge respect for careers advisors because they've got so much knowledge and so many tools in their toolbox to help young people navigate what is essentially an awfully complex working world these days. So most of my training comes from the background of venerating careers professionals and careers advisors, but also from the knowledge that it is really important that the work that careers advisors and careers guidance does is supported by the educational aspect, by supporting young people to develop the skills that they need to utilise the information and support that they get from the guidance practitioners. So, as I said, teacher, took early retirement 10 years ago, wasn't quite ready for Jeremy Kyle or whatever's on TV these days. So I've, for the last 11, 12 years, been working as a consultant, supporting schools, national organisations, MATs, and of course careers hubs in delivering training for staff involved with careers. Now that's my background. Next slide, please, Hyla. So what we're going to be looking at today is the benefits that putting CEIAG at the centre of school policies and focus gives us. Now you'll find the term CEIAG comes in lots of different forms. Ofsted call it CIAG, some people call it CIG, some people call it CAG, and everyone's confused. I prefer the term CEIAG because it covers all aspects of careers work, and it stands for careers education, which is the teaching side of things, information, advice and guidance, which is where careers guidance professionals come in. So it brings everything together. As I said, and it is important for them to be brought together. Otherwise, it's a bit like having bangers without mash. It just doesn't taste the same. It doesn't have the same effect on how hungry you're feeling. it doesn't have the same effect on how children can utilise the support we're giving them. So hopefully at the end of this, you'll understand the myriad documents that set out what you have to do, what you should do, what you could do. Okay, and I am going to focus much more on statutory requirements, because I know that even now there are schools that are not meeting certain aspects of those statutory requirements. There is a checklist which is in a Google document which will allow you to work out whether your school is meeting statutory requirements. And I will also be looking at balancing your workload, because we all know teachers only work from 9 till 3 and have all these long holidays. Yes, right, okay, excuse my irony. We know how busy teachers are, and I'd like to try and make it as simple and as quick as possible to get things that really make a difference done. We'll also talk a bit about having a school expert on CEIAG, whether that's a careers leader, the careers advisor. You need someone within the school that you can go to. And equally, you need some form of provision if that person is suddenly out of action, if they have an accident, say, or they decide to leave. So thinking about the aspect of who is the go-to person within your school, but also making sure that everybody within the school is involved. And then I'll finish off with some sources of support. So that's what we're going through today. So we're looking at 90 minutes with time for questions. I can see most of you already got your mics off, so much appreciated. We don't need to know that Amazon have arrived or that little Johnny wants you to sign his report. If you have questions, please put them in the chat box. I've got the chat box alongside here. And I do like to see that I'm talking to real people out there. So if you're comfortable putting your camera on, please feel free to do that. It makes me feel less lonely, because it is lonely sitting here at this side of the computer and there's no one else here. So that's the housekeeping. Let's get going on to the real topics here. Next slide, please. I've seen some of you have put in what your roles are, and there's quite a spread. But if you haven't put in what your role is, if you would kindly do that within the chat box, I would really appreciate it. It does give me a chance to think on my feet a bit more about how I'm couching the topics. Okay, so are you a new careers leader? Are you someone who's been a careers leader for a while and you've got the hat, the t-shirt, the mug and the ruler? Are you an SLT member with oversight for careers? Now that's a really important one, because you need to be aware of who your lead person is. Okay, so we've got some people with big long titles on here. Are you an SLT that doesn't oversee careers? Are you a governor? Are you a careers advisor? Or are you just someone with nothing else to do on a damp Tuesday evening and want to sit in on this webinar? So if you could share that, that's great. I'll be keeping an eye on that. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Right, the key point I want to get across to people is that careers it's a spider on the web of education. It links everything together, and it helps young people not only to learn the dates or the piece of knowledge that is needed for their exams, but it helps them to understand why they're learning it, and to be able to utilise that in their daily lives at some point. It might be today, tomorrow, it might be 25 years' time. I certainly was doom scrolling through Facebook the other day, and a friend of mine put on a scan of a page where she'd used trigonometry to work out if she could fit a corner toilet into an ensuite she was trying to build. So you never know when that knowledge is going to become useful. But understanding why you're learning it is the key to learning deeply. And you can see here there's a little bit of research that I'd like to point you towards, especially those with curriculum overview, that I can see there's been a few people with that. Students learn more deeply when they can apply classroom gathered knowledge to their real world. So that might be something like, can I fit a loo into my ensuite? It could be, how much is the carpet going to cost for my spare room? Or it could be something as simple as watching a very short video as a settling tool, as a starter, about how what you are teaching today is used in the working world. There's something that clicks in those teenage brains, and you know though their synapses are making new connections all the time. So exposing them to that kind of knowledge, that this isn't just learning for learning's sake because I've got an exam to do and I've got to get decent marks. It's about something that's useful for the real world. Next slide, please. So backing that up is a little bit of research, and this is some research from 10 years ago from the Sutton Trust, but it is still relevant today, and it is still quoted quite frequently today. And it came about from some research about the difference in attitudes and things that are sorry, my brain has just gone dead there. Being able to meet their rewind. Can someone please edit this bit out because my brain has gone? Their performance in their GCSEs, being able to meet their targets and to actually increase what they have achieved in those targets above what is expected, is definitely improved by good careers education and linking what is being taught into the classroom into the real world. And it came about that at GCSE, the two key things that linking the curriculum to the working world did was improved performance, so better exam grades, which is the term I was looking for a few minutes ago. But it also had an effect on unexplained absences. And as we all know, that is a big issue at the moment. So that was at GCSE. It had even more of an effect at A level. So again, it was a decrease in unexplained absences. There were better A level results, but it also led to better destinations. And we all know that destinations data is being picked up, or you may not know. Ofsted are asking for the last 3 years destinations data for nearly all schools that they're actually inspecting at the moment. So they are picking up and looking at destinations data, whether young people are becoming neat, but not only that, but the balance between technical pathways and academic pathways. Is the school giving equal credence to both? and also whether young people are staying with those destinations, or are they getting to college and deciding this isn't for me, I'm going to go off and work down the market, or getting to university and thinking, no, I should have done an apprenticeship, and then moving off. So really important information there to be pored over and looked at, and I'll be coming to some more in a second. Next one, please. There is a link to this infographic found in the Education Endowment Foundation website, and I am going to go on to this in more detail. But what they did is they took the last 20 years research on the value of careers education and how it can have a positive effect on outcomes for young people. And obviously we've all heard of EEF, and we all know that we can rely on their research. And they went through it in a lot of depth, various different reports. And if we can have the next slide, the key was that 60% of the reports came to the conclusion that there is a definite link to improved educational outcomes. Okay, they are saying that definitely good careers education improves actual academic outcomes. 67% of the research showed a positive impact on the economic outcomes for the young people, and 62% of the research showed that there was improved social outcomes. So when we're thinking of things like pupil premium, we're thinking of possible NEETs. These issues become a lot clearer when we start thinking about what we can physically do. Now, the key barrier quite frequently is it is very difficult to prove absolutely we did this and this happened. That is an issue. With careers education, it's a bit like planting a seed. You can plant that seed today, it may germinate tomorrow, next week, or it may not come up for another 20 years. But overall, the accepted consensus of educational research says that good careers education embedded within a school and spread across the curriculum has a very positive educational, academic, and social improvement for the young people we're working for. Okay, so I just want to make that really, really clear. If we could have the next, please. And if you didn't believe me, Ofsted are much more interested in careers now than they have ever been in my 30 years in careers education. This is a crib sheet from Ofsted that was issued to Ofsted inspectors, and it looks at the personal development thread, and it asks what the inspector should be looking for. Now, I know it's far too small to read on there, so the next few slides we'll go into it in a bit more detail. These are all the things in the CEIAG section, or as I've already said, they call it CIEAG. Feels wrong saying that. And very quickly, it says, is the school ambitious about the possibilities for pupils? Is the school paying attention to the Gatsby benchmarks and the Baker clause? And I will be coming back to both Gatsby and the Baker clause later on if you don't know what they are. It says in that thing, are pupils in year 8 to 13 given a wide range of unbiased knowledge about diverse world of work and business. Since that was printed, it has changed. It is now year 7 to year 13. Are there opportunities for a wider variety of career options and knowledge and about the skills they seek? So they're saying, are we linking the skills we're teaching young people to the types of jobs they can do? Are pupils supported in applications and CVs? I know for a fact that not all schools are doing that. My eldest grandson left school last year to go to college, and I was shocked to find he'd not done interview practice, he'd not done CVs, he'd not done applications at all. So we know these things aren't being done. Are pupils given unbiased information about the choices available to them? And is work experience meaningful, especially in Key Stage 5? And is it enhanced by a range of complementary other activities? Now, they're not saying you have to do work experience, but there is talk about that happening in the near future. We are waiting for the government's next career strategy. So that is just what it says in that little bit at the bottom that says CEIAG. But if you look at the rest of the document, could we have the next slide, please? There are things that are in other sections, okay? Financial literacy and reliability of online information. Are they able to look at information online and decide whether it is trustworthy or not, which is a key skill taught by careers education, comes under the PSHE section. Equality has its own section, and you have a clear duty to ensure that stereotyping is challenged, especially where it's regarded the world of work. So you've got this, people like me don't go into those sorts of jobs. And that may be because of my race, my sex, my gender, my religion, whatever. Are you challenging those ideas? There's also a section about risk management, which can come under careers education. How do you plan your career journey? One of my favourite sayings is there's no such thing as a careers path. It's crazy paving and you lay it yourself. You don't know what your life is going to be like. But how do you manage the risk of the decisions you're taking? And then finally, development of character. We're talking about aspiration, widening opportunities, providing opportunities for pupils that don't necessarily have that social capital available to them. So that is what Ofsted is looking for. So I'm really keen, I hope that I've got across to you the idea of how careers education can gather all these different strands together and weave them into a magical outcome of young people who are able to navigate this world that we've left them outside. Now I can see there's some comments up here about destinations data. I haven't got any more time to really go into that now. It's one hell of a big job, and I know that, but there is a lot of help in the resources section of the Careers and Enterprise Company. So I'd suggest if you're worried about destinations data, go and look at that. But destinations is a really key way of showing your careers education is working. Moving ahead. So, are you aware of these documents? Statutory guidance for careers education, the skills bill, obviously safeguarding, Ofsted framework, and the Gatsby benchmarks, which I've mentioned before. All of these have effect on what you have to provide for the young people in your care. So let's start looking at them. The statutory guidance, the latest one is January 23. It applies to schools, sixth forms and colleges. Okay. It is updated regularly. Sometimes you get big changes in it, sometimes you get minor little changes, but there's a lot in there. On my website, I've got a couple of blogs on there which examine the statutory guidance and tell you what you must do, what you should do, and what you could do. Next slide, please. The skills bill meant that you have to have provider access legislation policy in place. Now, you may call that the Baker Clause, but it is a legal requirement, and it requires that you have or you allow training companies and employers to come in and present to your young people about what it's like working for them or training for them. There's other aspects of the skills bill that look at things like providing new pathways for particularly occupations that fewer people are going into, etc. But this is the aspect that we need to look at. Next one, please. Obviously, the safeguarding legislation is in place, and there is a lot of worry within schools about how safeguarding of young people is affected by having to let employers and training providers come in, and also about work experience. And it is, without doubt, it is a lot of work to do, but there are ways around it, and there will be some sections that I'll talk to you about shortly, things we can do to help that. Next one, please. Okay, so let's go back to the statutory guidance. Now, it says you should have a policy, a careers policy. Every school should have one. It doesn't say you must have one. But in actuality, you really must have one, because it's one of the first things, that Ofsted look for when they're about to visit you. You know, they do this trawl through your website. They will be looking for your policy, and they will be looking to see what values and vision you have for your careers policy. What is it you want to achieve? It will be looking at if you're meeting the statutory requirements. It will be looking for a learner entitlement. Now, learner entitlement is a set of things that each year group or key stage can expect to have access to. So that might be in year 7, all year 7 pupils will be able to visit a museum and find out what jobs people do in the museum. Or in year 10, pupils will be able to go out on work experience. Very simple statements like that. But making it clear to staff, to parents, and to young people what it is they can expect from the school. Within the policy, it should set out how careers is managed within the school. So who is the careers leader, who do they report to, and so on. And it should also set out how the school will engage with stakeholders, and that might include employers and training providers and other local sixth forms or colleges, etc. So it basically sets out all the work that you do and what you expect it to achieve. So as I said, technically, it's not a must, but it makes life much simpler for you to have that careers policy in place. Next one, please. So let's have a look at what you do that is compulsory, that every school must do. Schools must continue to work towards the Gatsby benchmarks. Now, the Gatsby benchmarks came into being about 2011, 2012, and they were adopted by the British government as the English government as being the star standard of careers education. Now, they came about by research being done. Someone went off and so John Holman actually went off and went around all these different countries that had excellent careers education. And he basically distilled down the key points, what seemed to be the precursors of good careers education. And they came down to 8 benchmarks. And they were basically to have a clear program to make sure that young people are able to access support that is suitable for them. Gatsby Benchmark 4 is particularly important because it says that you must link what you are teaching in the classroom to the world of work. And then the rest of them were basically around making sure that young people have contact with employers, universities, colleges, training providers, and so on, and that they have access to clear information about types of careers out there. Gatsby Benchmark 8 said that young people should be able to access a careers guidance professional. So that is what the Gatsby benchmarks are. And the Careers and Enterprise Company was basically created to oversee careers and improve it within schools. And they put together a computer program called Compass, which then morphed into Compass Plus, which looks at how well you're doing in meeting the Gatsby benchmarks. Now, originally, when this came in, all schools had 2 years to meet all 8. Okay, and here we are, 12 years later, and we're still at the point of very few schools meeting all 8. Okay, someone's just put in some extra information on the side there about the Gatsby benchmarks. I can't remember the exact breakdown, but there are still lots of schools who are only meeting 2 or 3 of them, and the majority are meeting 3, 4, 5, possibly 6. So there's still work to be done around that, and each school must be working to improve their scores on the Gatsby benchmarks. Next one, please. Gatsby benchmark 1 links you back to your policy that you must have a process in place. You must have the scaffolding of a good system. And there's a word there in capitals. It's there in capitals for a reason. The programme must be explicitly backed by the SLT. The SLT can't get away of, well, that's the careers department, they can do that. No. The SLT must be strongly behind. And I know there's governors on this call. Governors are where the buck stops. You are legally responsible for making sure your school is working towards meeting these requirements. It is your job to hold these school leaders to account and ask them, why are these requirements not being met? Okay, why are you not explicitly saying to all staff, everyone has an input into careers education? So your school programme must be on the school website. Okay, doesn't need to be too detailed. It can just be a very brief overview, but it must be on the school website. You can have a much more detailed version within the careers department that goes into more detail, or is written in a more professional tone. Next slide, please, Hannah. So what does go into the careers programme? A summary of what is happening. So those entitlements that we were talking about earlier in year 7, year 8, year 9, and so on. Details of how learners, teachers, and employers can access the information about the careers programme. So ideally, it should all be on the website, and then it's really simple. Look at the careers website. You need to put within your programme how you're going to manage and measure your success, how you are going to evaluate the programme and say this is working, this isn't working, and what the impact it is going to be or has been. You must put in there how often you review the programme, and your governors must have ratified the programme, and you must have the explicit backing. Okay. Now, if you're worried about, oh God, what is that? There are resources at the end of the PowerPoint that will show you examples. Next one, please. Gatsby Benchmark A I mentioned earlier, and this is what people perceive to be the careers programme, but this is just the sharp end of it. It is the opportunity for a young person to sit down with a qualified careers professional and go over what they want to do, how they think they're going to achieve it, and talk about their plans for their working life, basically. Now, some very worrying information came to my ears not long ago about schools doing 10-minute careers interviews. Basically, getting a kid into an interview, sat down and say hello is 10 minutes. So that, to my mind, doesn't tick the box of Gatsby Benchmark A. Careers interviews should be ideally about 45 minutes. And that's if you have got the information to the careers professional about who the person is, what their predicted grades are, what they might be interested in. Now, the statutory guidance doesn't say much about the qualifications of the careers professional. It does say it must be delivered in an impartial manner. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be an external person from the school. What it means is that the person who is delivering the guidance must do it in an impartial manner. They can't say, right, well, you've got to go to this school's sixth form. Sorry, I've just got a tickly nose today. Okay, they can be employed by the school, they can be brought in by the school, but they must be impartial. And you can prove that by employing somebody who is qualified to a level 6 or level 7, which is basically postgraduate, so the same level as a teacher, in careers development, and who subscribes to the CDI Code of Ethics. Okay, more information coming up alongside. It doesn't say that your guidance professional must be level 6 qualifies, but it does say that that is good practice. However, let's be honest, there is a shortage of careers professionals out there. and they are hard to find. So making sure that whoever they are have training and are impartial is key. And I will draw your attention to the last comment on that slide, which is advice should promote the student's best interests. And that applies to any staff that are talking to pupils about any choices. So with anyone who's taught has had a conversation with a young person about taking their subject as an option. And we've all been guilty at some point of trying to dissuade someone who you don't think is particularly good or particularly suited because you don't want them in their class. It's wrong, but I think we're all human and we've all done that. But it must be impressed upon all staff that any advice we give pupils should be in their best interests. So we need to be saying, we don't think it's the right for you because, not, I think it's wrong for you because I don't want you in my class. I know I sound a bit cynical there, but I'm trying to be honest. Let's move on to the next bit. Next one, please. Terminology. We talked about CEIAG back at the beginning, and we have a slight problem in that the statutory guidance uses the term careers guidance to cover all careers activity. Whereas, next thing, please, most careers professionals use the term careers guidance to talk about the careers interview, the one-to-one guidance. So when you're reading the statutory, thank you, when you're reading the statutory guidance, they are talking about anything careers based, not just the one-to-one interview. Now we'll have the next one, please. As I've said, you can employ staff, you can buy staff in, and it needs to be arranged by a school in the most logical way. Now, I noticed we had some SEND people in here, so it doesn't actually have to be face-to-face. If someone has a special need that they prefer to do a video link, that is also acceptable, okay? So it must be delivered in a way that suits the young person, okay? Right, so next one, please. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. What we might like to look at as far as delivering guidance. These are all methods under the way that the statutory guidance talks about. It could be careers fairs, mentoring, employers coming in to deliver training or talks, or it could be employers coming in to help deliver lessons on exam content. I know, for example, the RAF do a fantastic thing about using maths in the workplace. And the army do a lot in team building. And there's various different organisations like Roots into Languages that will come in and talk about how languages are used in the workplace and what you are learning in the classroom can benefit you in the working world. It can also mean college and university visits and telephone and helpline services. So all of those, according to government, are careers guidance. We would talk about them as careers education, careers information, and they are all part of the whole, okay? But what you must remember as a school is you need to give equal weight to technical routes. So apprenticeships and college routes, as well as the academic route. And I know that can be difficult in many schools where the majority of teachers have been through university. Some have gone from school, university, back to school. Others have gone school, jobs, university, school, and vice versa. But we must get away from this idea that university is the gold standard. We now have degree apprenticeships. We now have technical routes that lead up via foundation degrees into degree level study. And whether they're actually cap and gown degree or not, they are valid routes. And we must get across to young people under law that they are equally valid and open for everybody. And this also, turning on the head, means saying to a young person who might be loads of level 9s at GCSE, oh, you don't want to go to an apprenticeship, you can go to university. Because Ofsted will come round and they will ask questions that unpick that, and they will know that that is being said to young people. And that is what the government is desperately trying to move away from, because we've had all of these years going, oh, university for a set amount of people. Now we've got to give more credence to the other routes again. And I'm saying that not just because the government say that we have to do it, but also empirically, we know that not all young people will benefit from university, and that some young people will find an apprenticeship or a training route much more auspicious and easier to access. Next one, please. So, governors, you must check that guidance given is impartial. And remember, we're talking about guidance is as in everything in the careers sphere. And that there isn't any favouritism towards a particular institution or a route. And it must include information on a range of training or education options. But we've come back again to this in the best interest of the young person. Moving on, please. Under the statutory guidance, we must share information with your local authority. And this is mainly to make sure that local authorities can identify needs or potential needs as they have an obligation to support them. Okay, now this is probably something you already do. It's just something that is within the statutory guidance. Next, please. For SEND practitioners and for people working with SEND pupils in mainstream schools, you must make use of your SEND local offer for all pupils that have got ECHPs. Okay, and the local offer must be on the local authority website, so you must make use of that and use that in supporting parents and young pupils in finding their next routes. It also says that from year 9, all pupils should include a focus on the preparation for adulthood, including employment, and that these reviews are informed by careers guidance. So I take that to mean that the careers professional that provides guidance services should have an input into the ECHPs for all pupils from year 9 onwards. And that's whether a pupil is expected to enter voluntary or paid work or not. but you should be looking at what their routes are going forward, certainly up to the age of 25 for pupils with ECHPs. Next one, please. Schools must deliver clarity on what happens up until the age of 18. And this is spelled out really clearly in the statutory guidance. Pupils have the option of full-time study in either school they're at or another school or college or training provider. They can go on to an apprenticeship or traineeship or a supported internship, or they can go into full-time work or volunteering with training provided with part-time accredited study. So those are the three routes that young people can take from the age of 16 to 18, and it is part of your duty as a school to make sure that young people are clear on that. Moving forward. Every school must have a named careers leader. Okay. Now, careers leaders come in lots of different forms. They can be an admin person who does all the admin. They can be a careers advisor who does the admin and planning and everything else. They can be a teacher. They can be SLT. There's lots of different ways. There's a fantastic book called the Careers Leader Handbook, which I know Hyla got for all of her schools. And it is absolutely fantastic. And it goes into this in much more detail. But what it says in the statutory guidance is worth noting. You are expected to appoint a careers leader who has the skills, commitment, and backing from the senior leadership team. And I would like to underline this triple underline, including protected time that enables the careers leader to carry out the role effectively. Okay, that is how important the government thinks the role of the careers leader is. And I know a lot of schools have given the role to an SLT member who has got 3, 4, 5, 6, 15 other different hats to wear, who doesn't have the time. This is my own personal viewpoint. I think the gold standard is having a careers leader at middle leadership level who reports to the SLT and has that line management route up into SLT and governors. Of course, a middle leader will have more time, hopefully, and can draw upon the support of the senior leadership line manager. But then the senior leadership team member will have a fallback on the knowledge of the careers leader who can be the school expert. So this is something your school must do. You must also publish the name and the contact details of the careers leader on your school website. Okay. Next one, please. I was just about to press my mouse button there to move it on. Okay, so we've talked about the types of careers leaders, and I've explained why I think the middle one, SLT to manager, middle leadership person, is the best option. But you could also have an admin careers leader who does all the admin for work experience and whatnot, and passes everything off to other people. And this is often utilised by schools that are trying to save money. And sadly, it doesn't seem to work. Because when you remember that you are overseeing a whole cross-curricular area and you are having to work with the head of maths and English and science and everything else and support the teaching of careers, I really think what I'm recommending is the key way to move forward. Okay, next one. Whatever type of careers leader you have, training is important. It's not a job you can do with no knowledge. And there is training available via the Careers and Enterprise Company. It is free of charge for non-independent schools, so for academies and free schools and so on. And there is also a bursary for the school. So you get £1,000 when the person's completed their training. There are assessed routes and there are non-assessed routes. There's a lot of information on the Careers Enterprise website, and I'm sure Hyla can back it up. There is also now, if you have an experienced careers leader who has already done the basic training, there is a 2-day top-up training available via the CDI that allows experienced careers leaders to look at things more strategically, and that's a 2-day course, which is, I'm not sure, but I think it is free of charge as well. Next one, please. Yay, we're finished with the statutory guidance. The skills white paper brought in the Baker clause on provider access legislation. Now, this requires every school to have a provider access legislation policy, which can be part of the school careers policy, or it can be a standalone document. But it must have the name, email address, and phone number of the careers leader. It must have a summary of the careers programme, which we've talked about back in right at the beginning of this piece of training, and how a training provider or another school or college can contact the careers leader. And then finally, how the school assesses the impact of the programme on students. You must do that. It is a legal requirement. Now, there are repercussions if schools don't follow this. And whilst it's been a legal requirement for a number of years, it's not been followed up a great deal. If we can go on to the next one, please. It has now been updated to say that every pupil in year 8 or 9 should have at least 2 encounters with employers or training providers. Another 2 encounters should be provided in year 10 and 11. And in both of these sets of encounters, it is mandatory that all pupils should have that number of encounters. Now, this isn't to say that if you've got a 240 year cohort, that all 240 kids have to do the same 2 encounters. But all 240 kids must have had 2 encounters. Some of them may have had encounter A, D, and Y, and others might have had D, Y, and A and B. It doesn't matter which ones, but they must have 2. Then in the third key phase, which is key stage 5, there has to be the option for at least 2 more encounters, but the pupils can opt not to attend them if they choose not to. Okay, they are optional. We've additionally been told that these encounters must happen between the 1st of September and the 28th of February in years 9 to 13, but you can do them at any time in year 8. Okay, that's how prescriptive they're getting. Moving forward. You must allow the full range of post 16 and 18 providers in. Now, that could be other schools, it could be free schools, university, technical colleges, and you must allow them access. You can't refuse them unless there is a safeguarding or prevent issue, or it is just not practical in as far as, say, they were out of your area and pupils couldn't get to them, or they want to come in the middle of an exam period. In that case, you can say you can't come in during that time, but you can come in at another date. But you must allow everyone access. And all pupils must be allowed access to those people. So if they're coming in to see year 10, you mustn't do anything to stop pupils attending. And that might be something like putting it on in an evening or a weekend. It must be during school time, and all pupils must be able to attend. Next slide, please. So what is a meaningful encounter? Okay, there's no time limit, though I've heard of 10-minute encounters, which doesn't sound like they're particularly useful. But a meaningful encounter is basically one where the provider offers information about the qualifications they provide, the careers routes that the qualifications can lead to, and also provide insight of what it might be like to work or to study with them. The key thing that you must remember is students must be able to answer questions. And this is where a lot of the online encounters fall down, in that they're one way and they're recorded. You can use recorded encounters if you want, but then pupils must be able to ask questions either by email or some other form to make it a meaningful encounter. Moving on. Safeguarding is important. I'm looking at time here, I'm worried. And if you've got people coming into school, you follow your standard safeguarding procedure. If someone has, oh, it's gone, thank you. If someone has got access to pupils, they're not left alone, and the normal stuff that you would do. There is a lot of hoo-ha about work experience, and a lot of schools say that the cost of providing safeguarding for work experience is difficult. Legally, this is what is on this slide is the minimum you need to ask for. The placement must have employees and public liability, and they must share a copy with you. There must be a risk assessment and a job description, and that can be provided by the employer that's offering the work experience place. And they must provide induction for the young person. Now, that is the minimum. A lot of schools in the past have paid out for companies to go off and do risk assessments and so on, and that is really expensive. But these are the minimum legal requirements that you must have. And obviously, you must get parental or guardian approval of the young person going there. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, I missed something there. Yeah, sorry, the thing that I missed. You should use your common sense. Okay, ask sensible questions. If a pupil is going somewhere where you think there is a higher risk, for example, a garage, you might wish to pay for a risk assessment. Okay, so I'm just moderating what has been said about the legal requirements there. Sorry about that, I missed that. Next one. You've got parental agreement. You must work with the employer to make sure they understand any specific needs of the pupils. So if they've got health or SEND needs, or perhaps they're a NEET pupil who might for example, not be able to afford to travel. They might be able to provide travel costs, etc. This next one I put in simply from my own empirical experience, where I had a young person end up in intensive care after having contracted a chest infection. If a pupil has health issues, get permission to share their health needs with the work placement. The person I was speaking about had severe asthma, and they were working in nursery and picked up a chest infection. And they ended up in intensive care, and it was very, very worrying. You must also prepare students what is expected, yada, 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 and you should also debrief them. Next slide, please. Where can you get support from? Schools can access the CEC resources platform. Absolutely fantastic. Got practically everything in there. Enterprise advisors, they are supported by the CEC and the careers hubs. There are local careers networks that are out there. Some of them are informal, schools just getting together, or they might be part of a MAT. Accessing them is fantastic. UCAS do a UCAS conference every year. Next one is on the 26th and 27th of February in Birmingham. I'm speaking at that about Gatsby Benchmark 4. So there's lots there apart from, how to get into university. Local colleges and universities are out there providing support as well. And also CDI membership, Career Development Institute membership, which can either be individual or as a school. And there's lots of support provided there with resources that are only accessible to CDI members, training, free webinars and all sorts of things, as well as a very useful quarterly publication called Careers Matters, which looks at a lot of the topics that you'll be thinking about within school. Okay, next one. The checklist that I mentioned at the beginning. Now, Hyla has got a copy of this. If you copy and paste those links, the first one is this questionnaire. Go through it, answer it truthfully, and you will find out if you're meeting statutory requirements or not. No peeking at the second one, which has got the answers. Okay, I shall know if you've peeked or not, and I will come back and haunt you at some point. Okay, so that is a hell of a lot of information. And for me, it's the bread and butter of what I do every day. But I know there are a lot of pulls on schools' time, money, resources. But hopefully the first part of this webinar has convinced you that putting careers at the heart of your curriculum can have very worthwhile effects on unexplained absences, on attainment and destinations, and on the social and the economic outcomes for the young people. And let's face it, we're all involved in education, not because it pays fantastically and it's got great holidays. We are here doing a very, very difficult job, being a governor or a careers advisor or a teacher or whatever you happen to be. You want to make a difference to the young people. And that's what good careers education can do. Next slide, please. So I did say to you that there's a lot to be done, except that you're not going to do it all today, tomorrow, next week. In fact, it will never be done. It's like painting the Forth Road Bridge. There will always be something that needs changing. So work out what is going to be important to you. Find support. Document what you need to do. Once you've done your statutory list and you found out where your gaps are, what is the most important to your school? Find your support and get it done. And remember, Ofsted, even if you are not meeting the statutory requirements, they will want to know what you've put in place to work towards meeting them. Okay, so find your support, document what needs to be done. Next slide, please. This is a point where I go, whoa, 15 minutes. Any questions? Or have I just bamboozled you? They've all gone quiet. Can we see any raised hands? Anyone typing frantically?
Can't see that there's anyone. There was a couple of questions that we've answered in the chat as we've gone along. And I can't see any hands up, but if anyone does have questions, then do shout.
What about independent schools? Right, independent schools are still inspected by the independent, I can't remember what the acronym is, but that has recently been updated and now includes careers education in much the same way, shape and form as state schools. If you are an independent school, I actually had someone who was recently inspected by the Independent Schools Inspectorate, I finally remembered, and they sent me through what had actually happened. So I'm happy to share that with you if you would like to see it. You can see my website on the bottom here. You can contact me through there. How can you get the link for the checklist? Hyla's put it in the chat, and she will carry on sharing it. And don't share the answer one yet, though. Make them suffer for that. Okay.
I will say all the resources that have been given out and the recording and everything you will get sent as well, including the answers to that. At the moment I can't copy and paste it because of the way I'm sharing my screens, but so you will have to wait for the answers to that, but you will get that pretty much straight after this. We'll send it out to you.
Okay. Someone's just asked, Shari has asked about PALS. Can the event take place any time of year in year 10 like year 8? No, it's only in year 8 that you can have the event at any time of the year. The all the other year groups have to be between September and February. To be honest, I'm not sure if they will actually check that, but that is what they say. And you have asked me to say, what does the statutory guidance say? So that is the important bit. So really get out there and put careers at the heart of your curriculum. And it will reap so many benefits for you and for the young people and your staff, because you will probably find a lot of your staff are actually doing career stuff. They just don't realise that it's career stuff. And building up their confidence that they know what they're talking about can be so empowering for a member of staff, and it builds better relationships with the pupils as well.
There was a hand up from Tracy, I believe it was, but it's just gone down. So I don't know if we've already answered it or if you still have the question you'd like to ask.
I do still have the question. I was typing it. For the PAL requirements and the need for a qualified careers advisor, how does that work in a school that's got students with severe learning difficulties whose next pathway is likely to be determined by parents and carers rather than by the student themselves?
There are specialist careers advisors who work with SEND pupils with severe learning needs, and they are used to working with parents and sort of external agencies to support the young people. I did notice there was someone in here from Talentino. They might well be a good person to talk to, but there are specialist SEND careers advisors out there, and you have that responsibility whether you think that young person is going to be employable or not. They've
So,
got something
sorry,
they
go
can
on.
put in life. Sorry, carry on.
So I spoke to a careers advisor the other day who does SEN careers advice, and she felt that she wasn't able to give anything more valuable than the school itself was already giving, because the school know the students better.
Yeah, that's probably
I
fair
know that's
comment.
a really hard question, really hard.
It,
And
it
as an
is.
ex-careers leader, I struggled with that because I was in that position, and I'm now an enterprise coordinator, and I still struggle with that.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle. It may be down more to her feeling that she's not properly equipped to meet the needs of that school and those young people. But there are careers leaders out there who can. I know I was working for the last couple of years. I've been working with an AP with children with very severe needs, mainly sort of social and behavioural and emotional. But you need a very special careers advisor to work with them. And it's finding the right one. It's a bit like finding a hairdresser you trust with your hair. You know, it's about finding the right one.
I think that word trust is really important there as well, Janet. I'm Amanda from Talentino and worked in SEND for over 30 years myself. And I think it's making sure that actually what they're saying is good and what is on offer is actually the best, and there isn't some advocacy that maybe doesn't need to happen.
We sing from the same song sheet.
We do.
That's good to know.
Lovely. Any other questions for Janet while we have her? No, we've all gone quiet.
Yeah.
Well, conscious of time, Janet, thank you so much for providing all of that information. I realise we're probably going away feeling slightly overwhelmed, but the video, the resources, the links, yeah, it will all be sent out to you. And what I'd really like to, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. What I'd really like to emphasise is that you're not on your own. That is the point of the Careers Hub, and whether it's the Essex one or whether it's one where you're located. The Careers Hubs, if you're part of the Careers Hub, we are very much here to help you. If you're not, then speak to your Careers Hub and you can probably join. Most of them will have spaces to do that. We do, each one of the schools within a Careers Hub has an enterprise coordinator, so that is essentially someone from our team that will be actively supporting your school already, and will be working with your careers leader on all of the things that have just been mentioned. But what I would really emphasize in that is that your careers leader, unless they are the head teacher or principal of the school or college, they absolutely need the backing of the head teacher, the SLT team, the governor. If you don't have a careers link governor in your school, then the government is very much recommending that you do. So I would highly recommend that you look at that. If it is that your senior leadership team or indeed your governing board would like some individualised information to come in, and for someone from the Careers Hub to come deliver some information or an update for you, we are very happy to do that. Speak to your careers leader and your enterprise coordinator on that. And finally, what I'd like to emphasise as well is that we have a fantastic bank of individuals, and it's great to see a couple of them on the call actually, of enterprise advisors who are essentially free business consultants with some amazing skill sets that are available for your schools and colleges to make use of. So if actually that might be that you want to start from the beginning with them, and actually that you want someone with perhaps a really great project management or data analytical skills to come in and help support you in a consultant role, basically to look through, well, what do we have already, or what's meaningful, what's not so great, how do we adapt this, are we meeting all the statutory requirements? Then we have an absolutely fantastic bank of individuals that are volunteering their time to be able to do that with you guys in the schools and colleges. So if that's something that you'd like, and they're really keen and really eager to get into the schools, so if that's something that you'd like, then please, again, do get in touch with us, and we do that based on a skill set. So we will headhunt if we haven't got a skill set already in our talent pool, so to speak. We'll headhunt someone that will be willing to volunteer some time for you. So would highly recommend that you speak to your careers leaders, speak to your SLT that's in charge of careers, and see what's going on already, see how much they are sort of ensure that they are following the statutory guidance as a minimum, but then what else are they doing to really have this really positive impact that we know it can have on young people, and in turn on the local businesses, and therefore prosperity in the area as well. So really keen that you maximise everything that we can offer, and everything that we offer is completely free of charge. There is no charges to anything. In fact, actually, in quite a lot of cases, there's bursaries. If it's, say it's a workplace visit for young people, or indeed for your teachers, then we've got money to pay for cover and things like that, so that we potentially could even pay you to deliver some of these bits. So so there is the finance there, because I realise that is quite often a sticking point. So and with that, do get in touch with myself, with your enterprise coordinator, with your careers leader, who will know who your enterprise coordinator is as well. And Charlotte, thank you. You've just put our email address in the chat there as well, so you've got it just in case you don't have it previously. So if there aren't any more questions, thank you again so much for your time. Janet, thank you for unloading your brain onto us today. It's been invaluable, the information that's come out, and I don't know how you store it all in there. I definitely cannot do that. So, and thank you for sharing that. As I say, this is being recorded, so it'll be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and then we'll send you out the copy of that, plus along with the resources. It may not be today because it takes a while to upload it to YouTube, but it certainly will be by the morning. It'll be sitting in your inbox waiting for you. Thank you again, everyone, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.